Hi, everyone. So my name is Dina, and I'm an occupational therapist here at Professional Therapy Associates. I've had the pleasure of working with our speech therapist in the Brick location, Vanessa, to put together a presentation for you guys, just to talk about functional communication, what it is, what are the types of functional communication, and why it's important to acknowledge all of them. So we're going to be getting started just again, understanding what functional communication is, and then we'll dive deep into each one and how to facilitate all of them. So what is functional communication? It is being described as the most basic form of communication for someone to be able to express their basic wants, their needs, and their ideas. So for a child to say that they want this, they need this, they feel this, or they see this, it does not necessarily have to be in the form of verbal communication. So that's what we're going to, again, continue to go into. And again, just so that everybody understands what your child needs and what the therapist is trying to facilitate and what they can help you facilitate in the home. So types of communication, we're going to get into each and every one of these. So first and foremost is words or approximation of words. Then we're going to dive into augmentative and alternative communication devices, or shorter known as AAC devices, choice boards and picture exchange books, pointing, gesturing, and body language, and sign language. So first, we're going to talk about approximation and words. So a child can learn to communicate using spoken word or word approximations, which are sounds that are similar to the words. Children begin to imitate sounds around 6 to 9 months, and then they begin to imitate words around 1 year old. And then by 2 years old, children can speak to between about 25 and 50 words. Again, that is just a range, and depending on your child's developmental age, if they are premature, sometimes those words ranges can be a little bit different, shorter or even more. When a child is unable to speak, that's when alternative forms of communication can be used. We do try in the very beginning to encourage spoken word. Everything we do is paired with a sound or a word to help children learn to imitate those words. So learning animal sounds or learning laughing or peekaboo, or again, those simple syllable words for mama, dada, baba. All those words are things that we start to work on in the very beginning before we then start to work on the words. So diving into different ways that we can help a child communicate if they are unable to use a spoken language, and then also how these can then facilitate spoken word. It's not for everybody, but it does always help everybody. It even helps promote language, and it also helps to get ideas across and to help reduce any kind of frustration when a child wants something so bad and they don't have the words to say it. This is where we can use these different forms of functional communication to help the child. So starting off with an augmentative and alternative communication device, or an AAC device. Many people probably see this as those are the ones with iPads. And what they are again, a type of device that is specifically more for this type of program, which has icons and words and pictures on it, that when pressed, it'll create a computer-generated vocal output of the word that they are picking. These can also be, there's different programs. We have Touch Chat, Proloquo, Dynavoxes, and others that are not as common. We can also use not just our fingers to tap these. For children who have a little bit more motor deficits, they can use an eye gaze machine, or those who are able to type and read. It can be as simple as typing in a text box and having it be read out loud to somebody. So it doesn't necessarily have to be this type of device that is commonly seen in the picture below, but it is just a way for a child to have that vocal output that is not theirs. It's a computer-generated one, and again, it's usually done by someone who comes out and evaluates a child to be able to get a device like this that is specifically their own. At PTA, we are very lucky to have iPads with a downloaded version of the Touch Chat, and pro quo. So this way, for children who we believe will benefit from an AAC device, we can then trial it here, and see their engagement with it, see how many, if you look at the picture, it has about 7 rows, 6 or 7 columns, 6 rows. That's a lot. Some kids, that's overwhelming. So we can then adjust it to their needs, make bigger boxes of smaller fields, for them to choose from. And this way it becomes an individualized to be able to express their wants and needs. So picture exchanging and choice boards. This is another thing that we're very lucky to have at PTA. We have these around the building. It could also be, we have the touch chat homepage throughout the building as well, for children to be able to say go or slide or ups or help. Those pictures are around the building for any child who needs just something to express that they can't physically use their voice to be able to express it at that time, or to be paired with, oh, potty, press the picture or touch the picture and say potty at the same time. We have that ability here. So basically, the first thing would be a picture exchange and communication book. These are pictures or words that can be utilized to help a child. What they'll do is they'll choose a picture of what they want and what they need, and then they're going to find whoever has that, hand it to them, to then retrieve it. So it really helps with some engagement and joint attention, and understanding that if they do need help, or if they need something that they can't physically get themselves, how to teach them to find somebody and to get what they need. With both AAC devices and choice boards and the picture exchange books, it does help create even simple sentences. I want, or I want to play, or I want to listen. Those become built into that through each phase that a child builds up their language with the type of communication that they have. So again, choice boards like the one on the right, they would then be able to say, like, tap the picture at the top, I want, and then the apple, or, ooh, I see pens, or or thank you for, giving me cake. Again, all of those can be individualized. We have the ability to print all these out, rearrange the pictures that are what the child wants and what the child prefers. So, okay, they don't need an apple. Let's say they want the carrot instead. Or, we're not working on clothing, but they want toys, and we can put specific toys in there as well. Okay. So pointing, gesturing, and body language. So this is, again, super important because this starts at a very young age, especially body language. So a child will initially begin to point between the ages of 9 and 14 months, and they will begin to intentionally point around the age of 18 months to those objects that they prefer, or that they want, or that they need, or point to mommy and point to daddy, or siblings, or aunts, or uncles, grandmas, whoever they want at that time, or whatever they need at that time. They begin to intentionally do that around 18 months. Again, understanding pointing, gesturing, and body language of a child is just as important as understanding spoken word, and again, should always be acknowledged. They are trying to tell you something, so if you can figure it out, do that. This way, again, it reduces that frustration, and it gets them what they need, and that they understand that, oh, if I do it again, then I don't have to get upset. I can point, I can look, I can tap your shoulder to get attention, to get what I need. Okay, so again, types of, again, some gesturing would be like pointing. Body language would be looking in or facing that direction of the desired item. Grabbing, tapping, or pulling the caregiver towards the desired item, or their facial expressions, their body signs. When a child is crying, when they're super little, they're probably hungry, tired, need to be changed. So we already know those things. We're already understanding some body language. So why not, as they grow older, continue to acknowledge those body language and those body signs? So they're smiling, they're happy, they're enjoying what they're doing. They're crying, they're not liking something. So how can we work with them to figure out what they don't like, and how can we shift away from that? Their body tension, are they tensing up? Are they getting nervous? How can we move away the stimuli that's scaring them, or how can we get them to understand that they're okay, but understanding that, oh, they're tense, I need to do something. Yawning, they're tired. Again, these things are expressing their pleasures and displeasures, the feelings or their arousal levels. You know, a child comes into OT and you can see that they're yawning and sleeping. I know that I need to get them moving to wake them up, or depending on the time of day, I know that I need to sit them back and I need to kind of do a more chill, relaxed kind of session, because I'm not going to get much out of them if they're consistently yawning and I'm trying to get them to do an obstacle course or to climb the rock wall. So I need to understand that body language. Or again, they're pointing to, you know, that they want the door closed because it's getting too loud in the other room. And I need to shut that door to acknowledge that they are tensing up, pointing at the door. They don't like something that's out there. So I'm going to close that. Sign language. Again, some people think that this is just for those who physically can't talk or physically cannot hear, which is not true by any means. Anybody can learn sign language, and it is important to, it is an important language to learn. That this way we can connect with more people in the community. And then children who have peers in their class who might have some language deficits and use sign. Um, it's such a kind of like a fun and easy way to, again, build relationships with those who have a different way of expressing their wants and their needs and their ideas. It's a different way. So sign language in children also do not necessarily have to be super structured. It does not have to be ASL or sign exact English, especially when they're just learning certain words or learning how to express themselves. If you can find a sign that is a representation of something that they need or want, then use it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, more or help, all done. You know, a lot of times we see that finish where your arms are just crossing in front, like you're saying no. Or you see all done where your hands kind of flick from front to back, you know, showing the back of the palm, showing the front is all done as well. But, you know, whatever your child is able to physically do at that time is great. I know we have some children, again, with motor planning difficulties where their more might not be finger to fingertip and it's more of like knuckles to knuckles, but they're trying to tell you something. So you're acknowledging that. You don't necessarily have to fix that, especially if you're not using other signs that are similar. If you understand it, you understand it, and that's the most important part. So typically we try to, if a child is going to be using sign, or if you want to begin sign with a child, a great time to start is around 6 months or after, when a child has developed a stronger core, has strong vision. And this way they are beginning to imitate and they are watching you and acknowledging you, and have that stability in their trunk to utilize both their hands at the same time. Some basic signs, again, to learn would be more, help, all done. You know, some basic foods like apple or cookie, you know, if they're hungry or thirsty, wanting to learn that, water, you know, mom or dad. Um, you know, again, they want to play the toy again, or they want to go on the swing again. Some ones that you want to kind of learn, potty or bathroom, to learn I love you, the sign I have in the picture. Those are just some, again, it's not limited to those. And there's really easy ways to learn some of these like these basic signs, you know, all over YouTube, all over social media. And even just on, you know, the internet, you can Google, what's the sign for more? And it'll come up for you. So from an OT perspective, you know, some people might be questioning, why is an OT presenting on functional communication? I did, again, have the pleasure of working with a speech therapist who kind of helps me understand the milestones of each of those communication milestones, and again, deciding which functional language that we really use in this population. But the importance of OT and like the importance of physical therapy and the importance of just in general positioning and movement. Why is it super important for kids to develop language or to develop functional communication. So we're going to start with vision. So again, making desired items in field of view, and having the communication devices within reach and within eyesight. This way it's acknowledged and utilized more. If, child has their device on the other side of the room and they're not at a point yet where they know that they have to go get it and bring it back and use it, then it's not being used and we're not going to find that functional communication during play or um, while they're at home. So you want to make sure that it always is with them at that time. You want to have those choice boards with them at that time, or again, having them acknowledge when we're going up the stairs in the room or in the building here or moving to another room. I have that choice board there where I can say, oh, look, we're going to go. And I can tap go and show them go. Or I can tap help and say, oh, do you need help going up the stairs? Or do you need help getting on your shoes? Having that be in their field of view is so important because then it becomes routine to them. And that this way they can continue to learn to use it. For postural control, so wanting to have a supported trunk, a supported neck to facilitate that full lung capacity, that diaphragm support and open airways that helps produce our sounds. So if I'm sitting here with like my neck down, it's kind of hard to understand me because my airway is being, and my voice box and all those areas in your neck are being contracted and collapsed. So it's harder for us to produce sounds in that way. Children you'll see have a hard time like really, expressing what they need if they're slouched down. You see them more quiet when they're slouched versus when they are able to sit up, supported by a chair or supported by an adult, then they have, easier breathing and easier way to produce sounds. So something that's also kind of interesting, which a lot of people don't know, and there is, still more research to be done for it. But movement is so important when it comes to building a child's language. So movement, when we think of movement and from an OT perspective, I think of the body's senses, and we have a sensory processing system called our vestibular system. And that system is processed within the ear with our equilibrium system that we have. And so what else is being processed within the ear is auditory language development. So they're working simultaneously all the time. We're hearing sounds, we're hearing talking, and we have to process all of that to help us then imitate it. So if our vestibular system is off a little bit, that's going to impact sometimes our hearing and our auditory processing development as well. So then we have a hard time understanding depth perception of sounds, which then can impact our balance, not really knowing what's around us or where we are in space. So then our vestibular system also helps with motor planning and building that muscle tone. So the more we move and the more we work our body and work our muscles, that's going to help build that postural strength. And also more importantly, our oral muscles. So building any type of movement you have in your jaw is being developed by our vestibular system and our movement like processing and our motor like coordination and all of that is being done through this system. So being able to open up your mouth, being able to develop those cheek muscles and those throat muscles, all comes from that system. And then also too, when our vestibular system is stimulated, it also does help to wake up the rest of our body. It helps to wake up the auditory system, our tactile system, our proprioceptive system, our olfactory, and our smells, our taste. Everything becomes woken up as we wake up the body through movement. So if our auditory system is being stimulated, then it could also stimulate speech. So that's one thing, what's great about having a super collaborative facility here is that our speech therapists aren't confined to a room. They are always more than welcome to be out in the gym, using the swings, using the trampoline, using the rock wall. A lot of times when you're walking by the speech rooms, they are not on, not at the table. They are on the floor engaging and playing. ABA, when ABA is working on language, same thing. They are on the floor. They're moving around. Like, we are not confined to a table, because when we need to talk is not just at a table. So we understand that movement is so important when it comes to then being able to produce speech. So kind of what I just started to talk about was collaboration. Like, why do all the therapists have to work together on communication? It's not just a speech area. Speech does have a better understanding of it. That is more of their schooling, which is why, again, we work in a collaborative uh, building, so that this way we can always go to a speech therapist. Hey, I have this child, we're struggling with these words. Again, is this at the milestone is this a milestone they're supposed to be meeting? Should they have more? Should they be understanding this right now, or is this too high? Or is this something that, they really should know? And how can I also help work on it? Are you working on it in your speech sessions? And then should I be doing it too? So the first bullet point there is to ensure carryover. They don't just need to talk in speech. They don't just need to talk in ABA. They have to talk everywhere, or they have to somehow utilize their AAC device, or use their choice boards or their picture book to be able to communicate, or using sign language to communicate. So we want to ensure carryover everywhere. We want to make sure it gets brought over into the home and brought over into school, at camp or daycares. We want to make sure that everyone's collaborating at the same time to work on that language. Again, communication is involved in all areas of the child's development. So being able to do their ADLs, being able to do life skills out in the community, or being able to, again, express that they're hungry. So when we move up in the milestone bracket, or, as we just grow older, we want to make sure that, the communication, the functional communication does grow with them. So even if it's, words, we want to expand from the 25 words to the 50 words. Or if it's with their device and we want to move to a field of 6, we want to move to a field of 12. Or a picture exchange, we're not just going to exchange one picture, we're now going to exchange the sentence strip. We still want to build that. So we need to ensure that all therapists are working on it, and not one area or in the home is stuck behind or lagging behind. So it needs to build as well. One thing we've all come to learn is that, like, behavior is a sign of communication. So when a child is upset, they're trying to tell you something. When they are frustrated, they are trying to tell you something. So what do? We have to work on their functional communication. So when we do that, we then decrease that frustration, we decrease that behaviors, which is what everybody in this building tries to do. ABA therapists are working on finding the function of behaviors. Speech therapists are working on that articulation of saying what they need. OT is working on that coping skill while they're frustrated and while they're learning to use their words. We're all working together in one way or another on working on functional communication to help reduce any frustration or behaviors that might happen. And then it also increases a child's motivation to use functional communication. If they're only talking in speech, and then when they come to PT, OT, ABA, or any other, in school, and no one else is acknowledging or working on that communication, why do they do it? So we want to be able to acknowledge that they're trying to tell us something, and then they're going to want to do it more. They're like, oh, you understand me now. Now I want to keep trying to work on telling you what I need, what I want, what I see, and what I understand, and that I need help. So it's so important that we are encouraging any kind of functional communication and acknowledging any kind of functional communication. So that is it. I hope you guys learned something, again, about this, about functional communication. It does kind of seem like common sense, but maybe you didn't really know about sign language being one of them, or choice boards. A lot, there's a big expansion in AAC devices now, because research is showing that it's really facilitating spoken word. So this is just kind of like a brief overview as to, again, a why. Why do we have to know it? Why do we have to work on it? And why are we all working on it? So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Professional Therapy Associates. And again, we're all here to work together as a team to build functional communication. All right. Thank you guys. Have a nice day.